Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cinealyze. Today we are doing a raw review of...
Inside Out.
Yep. My name is Aaron Tharp, and I'd like to welcome my special guest today, my very good friend.
I'm Andy Matthews.
Awesome. So, I have to admit I cheated a little bit this time. My wife and I actually already saw it before today, but it was definitely worth seeing again. So, and Andy had not seen it yet.
Yeah, I've been slacking on my movie watching lately, so I haven't seen it. But big Pixar fan, so I was excited to check it out. And I think we have a lot to talk about. For sure.
Absolutely. So let's get started. So first impressions after finishing the movie.
I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. It's pretty rare that I don't like a Pixar movie. I think, by and large, most Pixar movies usually resonate with me really well. I kind of grew up with Pixar, so it's something that is very close to me, and Inside Out didn't disappoint for sure. So
yeah, absolutely. And we're a little bit different in this case because I like Pixar, but I definitely have a few that I don't like as much personally. Sure. For me,
Brave.
Yeah. Oh, they will absolutely be an episode all about that. Let me tell
Cars 2. What?
Cars 2, Brave, and I'm one of the rare people that didn't really like Up either.
Oh, get out of my room. Up is the best.
I have a good reason though.
Well, don't tell it to me because I don't want to know.
We're not talking about Up though. We're not talking about Up.
No.
So I'm a little bit skeptical as of late, but I was very pleasantly surprised. So I mean that's a nice thing considering that I haven't been as big of a fan of the more recent films. Right. I liked this one because I felt like it goes back to what makes Pixar great. Yeah. And that's their ability to tell a good story and actually make you feel something instead of just kind of zoning out for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think Pixar has always excelled at kind of bringing things that are difficult to portray on screen to life. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at like Toy Story or Cars, and a lot of their movies are bringing inanimate objects to life. And though thoughts or emotions, I guess, kind of strays into new territory for Pixar, I thought they did a really good job of finding really clever ways to visualize these really these really complicated concepts, and they did a really good job of taking that kind of Pixar style and being able to illustrate these emotions, and I think that's a hard thing to do. It's hard to put a face on a feeling,
Absolutely, and it takes effort. I mean, and I think that is what has put Pixar on the map from the very beginning, was the fact that they put so much love and time and energy into their stories.
Right.
And that is what has made them famous. And which is ironic coming from a company known first and foremost from their technological achievement.
Sure.
And that's kind of amazing to think that they've kind of done both, which often it's like we'll cover up our bad storytelling with lots of special effects instead of it being a story-driven and technological-driven attempt.
Endeavor. So. For sure. I heard one time, and I might be misquoting here, but I'm going to say it anyways, but I heard one time maybe a scriptwriter or somebody that worked for Pixar said that at any moment in the writing process, a Pixar movie is the worst film that's ever existed. And from that, it slowly evolves, and it goes through, numerous drafts, just like any screenplay, but that, through their writing process and through their procedure, it starts to really take shape. And I feel like something that Pixar has always kind of been known for is their ability to, like, capture emotions and to really, like, bring those to the forefront of the audience experience. I mean, I don't know how you felt during Toy Story 3. I think we could all probably point to the moment that we were, like, shocked. Like, I saw the first Toy Story on my birthday, and when I was probably 6 or 7. And I saw the last one on my 18th birthday. It came out on my 18th birthday.
Seriously?
And so it was, like, this whole, like...
nostalgia fest.
Yeah, realm of my childhood was coming to the end, and I was just, like, blown away by the amount of emotion that I felt. And that's why I feel like Inside Out is really unique, is because I feel like they're using a strength that they have of being able to capture emotion, but they're going one step further with it. They're not just capturing emotion and putting it into their story. Their story is emotion.
Yeah.
And like I said before, they found a really clever way to visualize that. So.
Yeah, and kind of going into the deeper nuances of this film, this clearly was a film that was not done overnight. This was not done in an attempt to make money. I mean, like, of course Pixar is a business, and of course they're designed to make money, but unlike bad sequels that, like, Cars 2, which was honestly just a cash grab and that's it, and it's obvious,
Sure.
that had no passion, no love, this clearly was something done from the perspective of someone that wanted to tell a great story and not sell toys.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think Inside Out really, I mean, it's obvious that it went through, I can't even imagine the writing process on this.
Gosh.
I mean, as you're watching it and you're looking at some of the really clever ways that they've come up with of building this world that exists inside your mind, you just it's kind of marvelous to like look at that and think that somebody at some point in the writing and creative process had to come up with a functional like tangible thing that accomplished the purposes of what your brain actually does.
I get the feeling that this was written by as much a screenwriter as a philosopher or a psychologist.
Sure.
Like someone who clearly understood how the brain worked, clearly understood how emotions worked, and was able to translate it to something that both kids could sort of understand and adults could get a lot out of. And this is one of those films that I feel like wasn't pandering. I felt like it was almost more an adult movie than a kid's movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think a kid could watch it, a child could watch it and have a great experience because there's a lot of really fun adventure things and there's some funny physical humor that happens, and I think it'd be definitely entertaining for a child. But I think it works. I personally think it works a lot better on kind of an adult level because you really, as an adult, you've experienced a lot more of these emotions and that are being transcribed on the screen. And I think, I think like you said, both audiences can enjoy it. But this one, it felt a little different. It felt like it was a little bit geared more towards adults, but
which was nice because we're the ones, like you said, that grew up with Pixar.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we were all kids when Toy Story first came out, and we've kind of gone through that whole life with it. Yeah. So it's nice that they're. I feel like they're almost kind of going for the same audience they have from the beginning. Just it's almost like an older.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I never really thought about that, but yeah, that's interesting.
It is pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
awesome. So just a heads up, let's talk about some specifics. So from here on out, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. If you want to skip to the end and our kind of final thoughts, you can push the button wherever it is. 10 seconds there. Okay, so let's talk about our favorite parts and then maybe even some parts we didn't like as much. So, do you have any you want to start with, or?
Yeah, sure. Okay. My favorite part, I thought one really clever part was how they decided to illustrate the dreamland. I mean, I'm a filmmaker, so
that was totally
right up my alley. Like Dream Productions, like the whole like design of that realm had like a very like Paramount backlot feel.
Oh, totally.
And that was really fun. Like it was, I just thought it was like a really simple and like clever like explanation for how your dreams come about, and not only that, but the dreams that they portrayed in there were really interesting because like there was just really bizarre things that were happening in the dreams, and it really kind of felt like your dreams actually feel like your dream starts out happy and then pretty soon it's sad or you see
scary.
Yeah, exactly. And so the way that they illustrated like the dreams that were actually happening was really cool. And I loved the little like details, like they had posters on the wall that said like someone's chasing me or like, scary dream like kind of thing. So it was really cool, really unique.
Yeah, I like that they even kind of made fun of critics a little bit too, just for a tiny bit of the movie when Fear was doing the night shift, doing the dream shift, and he was being every little bit. He's like, "Oh, she's acting so bad," and kind of being the typical, teetotaling sort of critic.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, I mean, that could have actually backfired if that was done wrong. That could have been kind of insulting. But thankfully, I feel like they did it in a really nice way.
I agree.
I think my favorite part is Well, this whole time I was watching it, I had this feeling. I'm like, okay, they need to take this a little darker, and maybe that's just the adult in me. But I kept expecting something, almost like something significant, like a death in her family.
Yeah.
And how would that affect the world? And the closest thing we got to that was kind of the death of the imaginary friend.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an interesting moment for me, and it might be my favorite because he's very bordering on the line of adorable and annoying at the same time.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is probably one of my critiques, as it was just like I couldn't quite tell whether I liked him or I didn't most of the movie. But there was a unifying theme during the course of the film with every single character, and that was Riley, the little girl. And what I liked about that is even if some of the characters might have been a little bit annoying, it didn't matter because they were doing it for the right reasons. They were doing it for the sake of this one little girl. So that they have that moment where he kind of literally has to fade away in order to let her grow up.
Yep.
That is such a beautiful metaphor, and it was done really well. But what was fascinating to me about that was that there's a part of that, I think there's a little bit of a metaphor in there, which is what I'm maybe taking a little bit too deep from this, but the idea that our childhoods and kind of our innocence has to be let go in order for us to grow up, but they're essential for us to grow up.
Yeah.
It's not like you could have, without it would have been a much sadder, much more depressed little girl, but instead she has these things that in essence move her potential to be happy along at the cost of their own existence.
Sure. And a thought that I had I loved that there was a lot of moments that I felt were actually surprisingly profound, and and there were several moments that were surprisingly emotional, pun intended. But I think that definitely was one of the moments, and I think it really spoke to me because something that I kind of pride myself on is I feel like I try to stay in touch with my inner child. And I think that they kind of symbolize that with, they have these, core memories that are a lot from her childhood, and just really kind of building blocks for her character and for her emotional state. And I think we all have that. I think, like you said, at some point we have to learn to kind of let go of that inner child in order to succeed and move on and grow up. But it's always still there, and it's always still a foundational part of who we are. It's still part of our core us, and I thought that was really cool. And it had a really significant meaning to see that it's okay to grow up, and it's okay to, I don't want to say lose your inner child, but to
maybe have it transform into something better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you can't really become necessarily a well-functioning adult without those key building blocks of your childhood.
Yeah, and it was really fascinating to see the emotions, the characters in the story progress, just like she did, and coming to terms with the idea that emotions aren't cut and dry. It's not that you're happy and then sad and then disgusted and angry and afraid.
Yeah.
It's that sometimes, in order to be happy, you have to be sad.
Yep.
In order, to be disgusted, you have to be angry. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that is beautiful because you look at the development of a child's mind, and it's very cut and dry. I mean, I have a little boy right now, and everything he does, it's very this or that.
Yeah.
There is no mix. It's one emotion or the other, and he goes back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
But that's the difficult thing about changing from a child into an adult or a teenager, is you have to learn how to combine emotions.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were able to visually represent such a metaphorical phenomenon, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it gives a whole new meaning to the term mixed emotions. And I thought that was a really beautiful part of it because, as you grow to be an adult, your emotions really become a lot more complex and a lot more kind of difficult to navigate sometimes because you learn more about yourself, you learn more about the people around you and the world around you, and so things aren't quite so cut and dry. You can't just be totally happy about something because you realize that this happiness is maybe not going to last for so long, and that there's all these different factors that play into it. And I think I I think something that I was really impressed that they did was that that's a really delicate thing to illustrate. That you can't really have happiness without sadness, and I think that they could have really like done a really poor job at illustrating that, and it could have come across really
preachy.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't feel that way at all. Like I felt like it wasn't saying like, you know what, it's okay to be sad, so just be sad all the time. They were just illustrating that these moments in our lives that we have sadness build contrast in our lives and add kind of variety to our lives, because it's from those moments of sadness or those moments of failure or depression or whatever that we can really grow and experience true happiness and true joy. And I thought it was very well handled. It didn't feel like they were clobbering me over the head with it, and it didn't feel like they were trying to push it in there where it didn't belong. It just felt like it was a nice little ribbon on top of a really solid piece of work.
One last thought on the positives for me was it's the Hollywood formula to end perfect, happy, shiny, in a little bow. And they actually didn't do that. I mean, they did, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They actually had almost like a sad climax.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, name a Pixar film where they've done that. Sure, they have their sad moments, but the climax is based on the idea of like actually accepting the fact that it's okay to be sad instead of everything being happy and golden and nice. And I appreciated that. I appreciated the guts it took to do that.
For sure. And something else, like, I don't know, maybe this is me kind of overly analyzing and going too deep.
Well, that's what the show's all about, man.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I felt like there was kind of a really subtle commentary on depression. It felt to me several times that sadness, her character, and kind of her as a character learning that sadness isn't a bad thing like she originally feels like it is. It kind of felt like this really subtle commentary to say that, you know what, like, depression isn't, like, it's not the end. That you can still, you could struggle with depression, you can still find happiness. And I personally have not struggled with depression, so I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but it just felt like there was a really, like, little hint of that, and I thought it was very tastefully done, and I felt like it was just really hopeful. I mean, I feel like as somebody that...
Well, a lot of people have said, at least, again, I can't speak
Right.
for everyone, but it's a common thing I've heard that when people are feeling depressed, the worst thing you can do is try and make them happy.
Yeah.
It's that try and force that idea of, you have to be happy because you're sad and I have to make you happy, which is something they did in this movie in particular.
Yeah, I mean, Joy's character is constantly trying to make sadness feel joy, happy.
Mm-hmm. And they had that moment in particular where the imaginary friend was kind of sad, and Joy's like, no, you have to be happy.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
Yeah.
And that's really realistic.
Yeah,
And then you kind of have that beautiful little moment where sadness does something to actually help someone become happy.
Sure.
It was a beautiful setup for the ending, of course.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was a refreshing look on it. That's all.
Well, and I loved that moment too. Now that you bring it up, because it kind of it was kind of a beautiful moment showing that, if that by helping other people, even though you might be sad, through helping another person can make you happy, can make your life more joyful too. Yeah, and that was kind of a cool little Easter egg in there too. A lot of little things hidden.
Things. This movie is very chock full of... You could analyze every little bit of this movie. Yeah. There was actually one other thing I noticed this time, since it was the second time through, is after she listened to the imaginary friend, Joy's like, how did you do that? The first thing she said was, well, I listened. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, I feel like, is one of the most relatable Pixar films. Obviously, because it's dealing so much on a like base human level. I feel like it functions really well as far as that goes, and it took a really complex idea that I feel like in general would be kind of hard to illustrate, and just simply laid it out in a really creative way.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to think that maybe all of us started thinking about our own little people inside of our heads,
Yeah, sure.
what they would look like, how they would act, what islands do we have in our personality,
Exactly.
and it kind of makes you start looking a little deeper.
Sure.
And it's pretty impressive if a film, especially a children's film,
Sure.
can do that.
Yeah.
So lots of positives, of course,
Yeah.
but let's maybe talk about a few negatives, some things that we didn't like as much. I have a few. I've got a couple. And they're relatively minor things, but they are what they are. Sometimes there were a few things that like the girl would do that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? I know they were trying to do it, but it didn't really pay off as well. The first one that comes to mind is like when she's deciding to slide down that railing. It just was kind of weird. Like I've never seen a kid go up to a railing and go like be afraid and then like walk. Tell me I'm fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It just felt kind of off.
That felt kind of
Forced.
awkward to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I didn't really love was that I felt like the whole premise of her like running away as like the big like moment of confusion. Like I don't know. I felt like and I get that it's a children's film, and I mean, that's a serious thing, like a child running away, that obviously would be, could be traumatic, and I get that. But it felt like that was, like, over dramatic and kind of underemphasized.
Yeah.
I feel like that could have maybe taken a different form, like that scenario, and they could have accomplished all the same purposes. I don't know. I just the running away thing just didn't work for me. I feel like it's kind of a cliche, and that it's.
Well, the way I see it is, I feel like they put so much effort into the inside of the mind, the inside part, that the out suffered.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much originality in what happened to the actual little girl's life.
Yeah.
It was actually extremely generic. Like kid moving away from home, done 1,000 times. Oh no, she gets embarrassed in school, done 1,000 times. Her dad doesn't have time for her, done 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Oh, what does she do? Run away. I mean, we've never seen that before.
Right.
Yeah. I totally see that. Like, pretty much when it came to the humans, it wasn't nearly as thought. I feel like they didn't put as much thought for sure into that.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And while I gotta give props to Pixar too. I know we're talking about things we didn't like, but sorry. But
no, it's fine.
You got to give props to him for being able to like take a simple story that has been done over and over again and inject it with like a huge shot of creativity and originality.
Totally.
So I mean, but I definitely agree. Like I feel like I kind of wanted a little bit more from the outside world. I mean obviously the main focus is what's happening inside the head, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more originality in the outside world too. So.
There were some times where I felt like they literally wrote themselves into a corner and didn't know what to do. So they just kind of came up with something and just used it.
Yeah.
Like, again, when there was so much effort put into the idea of the psychology of a child's mind, that sometimes I felt like they just kind of had to do something. Yeah. Specifically, what comes to mind is at the climax where Joy is trying to go after sadness and she's like floating away on a cloud. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then she literally makes a tower out of boyfriends. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
We just went Monty Python here. That's where I was just like, okay.
That moment, like,
it was just way, way out there.
Yeah, that and then also like, I kind of struggled with the whole like imaginary boyfriend thing too, because like, I don't know. I mean, I've never personally been an 11-year-old girl, but it just seemed like that was a little premature. Like
maybe as a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, if she was 13 or 14, then I could maybe understand that. But it's like, she's 10, 11. Like,
although
I don't know.
It was
hilarious.
It's one of the funniest moments in the film. It's just
yeah.
this character. I would die for Riley.
Yeah.
Never heard of you. I'm from Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean it was great, and I love that moment too. I feel like the boyfriend tower kind of ruined that a little bit for me. Because this is a little over the top.
It was weird.
It kind of felt like... felt like a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs moment, like, where it's just, like, so much, like, blah.
Well, at least in that, we're kind of set up for that type of quirkiness.
Right.
It's done from the very beginning, so therefore we accept it.
Yeah.
The problem is, this is based in so much reality. I know it sounds weird, but like the film is kind of giving us so much that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
To have moments like that didn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And something else too that I kind of struggled with is like I felt like it just the second act kind of lagged a little bit in a few places because it was kind of the constant thing of like, oh, we're going here, and then oh, that doesn't work, and so we'll go over here, we'll try this, oh, that didn't work, and oh, we'll go over here and try this, and it happens 4 or 5 times, and I was kind of like, it just felt like a little much to me. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like, are they ever gonna get back to headquarters? And I don't know, I just felt like maybe they pushed that a little too far. Like maybe there was too many roadblocks and it was just constantly moving from the next thing. And I understand that there has to be that to a point, but I personally would have rather have spent a little more time in the places in her mind that they did visit.
And instead of just kind of glossing over them, maybe they could have actually removed one of them completely and then had more time.
Yeah, because I mean, and maybe I'm just biased because I love the Dream Productions part, but I feel like they could have spent a little more time there. I felt like kind of slighted. I was like, oh, that's like one of the most fascinating parts, and
it's
it
true.
was there for like 2 minutes. And I was
well, maybe one small issue was maybe they bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah.
Maybe there was just a little bit too much of the brain and psychology and how your mind works that they tried to do too much.
Yeah.
And it's such it felt a little bit, which is kind of unfortunate considering there were moments that it felt like they lagged, and then moments that felt like they were too fast.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of, being lost among the kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like there was, there in this world of the mind that they are representing with all these different like realms that they visit throughout the film. There's so many like different places that you would love to like see, and if you had the 4 hours to sit down and like explore them in a film setting, like that would be awesome. But it just for the purpose of this, like feature length film, it just didn't really feel like. I just felt like it went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Not much. I mean, it wasn't annoying. It wasn't
These are all
just,
like it's not like it was anything that ruined it. Yeah, this is. I mean, well, we're trying to find the little things that maybe could have been done a little bit better.
Sure.
I think another thing I was a little confused by was it's actually positive and a negative. I felt like most of the characters. I mean, it's difficult when writing emotions because literally the characters you write in a story are often dictated by their personalities and their emotions. So when you have a character that's a emotion, how do you write depth into them if all they are is joy or anger?
Yeah.
But I felt like for the most part they did a good job with joy. Yeah. Joy and sadness I felt like had a little more depth, but the other three unfortunately didn't really.
Yeah, kind of two-dimensional characters for sure.
I think they could have done a little more to make them a little more unique.
So a thought that I had as I was watching this that I was like, it was kind of like one of those Inception type situations, is that like there was different points throughout the film, and especially with Joy, that Joy, the emotion, was feeling different emotions than Joy.
Right.
And that was interesting, because there's a point where she gets sad and is kind of melancholy, and it's like, okay, so it's like, how, I don't know. It was just a thought that I had, is like, how does that work? Like, how does an emotion feel different emotions?
Well, maybe...
Like, how does happiness get sad?
Yeah. Well, but what's interesting about that? I think I might have a little bit of an answer.
Yeah.
Well, so we've been talking a little bit about how the emotions are kind of growing up with her because they are her. So maybe what it is she's learning what sadness is.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's how you kind of get that mix between them all.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thought. So the emotions are maturing as she matures.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think like one of the things that I did really like, and I thought was kind of a good territory, is that they kind of hit Riley at that age where you're kind of that in between childhood and adulthood. And it's kind of coming over that crest. I thought that was really good. So that was kind of
actually, I think I figured out something that would help. Take out Honesty Island. That added nothing to the story.
Yeah.
Like, and if you think about it, it's completely different than any other part of her core memories. Like, we have her family, we have her love of hockey, we have friends. Her kind of fun side, her friends.
Yeah.
Honesty, it has nothing to do with any of those other types of memories. So why is it important? I know the only reason it was there to have that moment when she steals her mom to be such a big moment. Yeah. It didn't. I mean, it kind of worked, but it really didn't. I don't think it was necessary.
No, I agree. I feel like that really
slowed it down maybe a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And it did kind of go out of place, and I don't know. I think it kind of brought up the question to me. I was like, okay, if honesty is there, like, where are the other virtues, right?
Yeah, right.
Like caring or service or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
There's obviously, like, the human, like, emotion system is so complex that there's probably really no viable way that they could illustrate that all. And so you got to give them, like, some credit, because there's
absolutely
there's tons of, like, other things that you could go into. Like, we talked a little bit about, like, you could have, like, regrets or, like, suppressed memories, that things that you try not to think about.
Yeah.
Or like past experiences, and just you could get into, like, dark stuff for sure. I mean, obviously it's a kid's film, so they don't.
But I'd kind of like to see it.
Yeah, but I think it would
that's the weird adult in me.
No, sure, and I think it would be fascinating, and I think we all would kind of like to see, kind of a visual representation of our actual emotional system. I think that could be really interesting. One other thing, just while I'm thinking about it, that kind of I really liked it, and I thought it was really hilarious, but kind of sometimes felt a little bit like just, I don't know, didn't really serve a purpose to the main storyline, was when we jump into other people's heads. Like, we jump into the mom's head, and we jump into the dad's head. It was funny, and I think that was some of the biggest laughs of the film, especially because you kind of get to see, like, these emotions in a grown-up state, which I thought was great.
I wanted more of it.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, I don't know, I just maybe there was a different way that they could have done it, because it just kind of felt like it's like Riley's story, and then it's like mom and dad for like 5 minutes, and then it's like, oh, okay, we're back. And like, I don't know, I mean, it didn't take anything away from the film, but it felt slightly random.
Well, I think I know. Well, I don't know, but it felt like they did it to make it a trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, and fair enough, it was... But I kind of, again, I was fascinated to see how an adult minds work just as much as a child.
Yeah,
it would have been nice to see more, but the problem is, like you said, it like tone-wise, it was a huge shift.
Yeah.
Going from just this one kind of thing we've known for half an hour to suddenly doing that, and it was just like...
Yeah, it just didn't really feel like it was, like, planted in the first act that we were going to be jumping in other people's minds.
Good, yeah,
and
really good point.
At the end, there was, like, the little, like, as the credits were rolling, there's, like, those little Easter eggs that showed, like, different people's minds and even animals and stuff. And that was hilarious. And at the very end, she bumps into a little boy, and not a little boy, like a teenage boy, I guess. And in his mind, there's these alarms going off, like girl, girl, girl. And, like, I mean, that was hilarious. Like, that was
everyone in the theater just laughed their heads off.
That was probably one of the biggest laughs for sure. So I think it was very effective, and it was really interesting to see it. And I would love to see more of that. I just feel like maybe there was a different way to do it that wasn't such a detour off the main storyline.
Yeah.
It didn't really bother me at the end. It mostly just bothered me in the beginning with the mom and dad, but very minor thing.
You know, in a weird way, this feels like a TV show. Like in the sense, almost like it's not enough ideas and not enough kind of interesting content to fill one movie. Yeah. But I don't know if a sequel will work either. Like, that might just be awkward. But I'm not pushing for Disney to do TV shows because they always end up cheap. But it just felt like there was a lot that I kind of wanted to see happen, but I accept the fact that there's only so much that could be done in a small kids movie.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think by and large, like we said, like, it's super relatable movie. They did a fantastic job of illustrating a really complex idea. Yeah. And overall, I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
I would go watch it again. In fact, I would like to watch it again because I feel like there's a ton in there that I can still get out of it.
Yeah.
So
for me personally, this was a breath of fresh air from Pixar's just their most recent movies. Like, I feel like this is where I've wanted to see them again. Like, some of my all-time favorites of Pixar their focus has been on relationships and emotions. Yep. Like, for me, like, some of my favorites have been Monsters, Inc., WALL-E, Finding Nemo, and they're based on the idea of relationships and relatable emotions, and this felt like one of those a return to what made them great. Right. Was telling these great stories and not trying to sell toys. Yep. Exactly. The last thing we need is another company trying to sell us toys. Yep. Exactly. And I know it's going to happen, and it just makes me sick, but it's, that's the name of the game. So. Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, that's where Pixar, like, needs to stay. I mean, that's kind of who they are as a company and as a, like, creative source for movies like this, is that they kind of have their own, like, brand, like you say. They
just really heartfelt, like feel good type of of movies, and we don't want to see him get away from that and just straight into the territory of, Frozen.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So really quick, I know we're wrapping this up, but let's take just a quick minute and talk about the short, because Pixar's really known, well known for doing their shorts at the beginning of the movie. What did you think of it?
I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I was actually quite disappointed. I usually really look forward to those, and they're usually just really perfect. But this one wasn't.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me was the song, the song Lava or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was cute and stuff, but it was just it was so literal that I was just it was oh. And then, the big volcano felt sad, and he was sad. And then the girl volcano came, and she sang a song, and it made him happy. It just felt a little too on the nose for me. For sure.
No, that's fair. But I found it interesting. I like to, you can feel an audience when watching a movie.
Sure.
You can kind of feel how they're... And
sure.
I don't think people knew what to do with this.
Yeah.
Like at first, when they realized it's a volcano with a face...
Yeah.
They just kind of gave this awkward chuckle, like, what is this? And then it starts singing, and they're even more like, what's going on? Although I gotta give props, I feel like by the end, most people, it kind of works for them.
Yeah.
In a weird sort of way. I thought it was kind of sweet. But yeah, kind of a little weirder maybe than normal. Like, it's funny because it felt like it was on the nose and way off the nose at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think, going back to talking about Pixar doing inanimate objects, I kind of feel like there maybe should be a size limit on the inanimate objects that they can bring life to.
Next, it's going to be planets.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
I love you.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Worlds explode.
Whoops.
So, but I think that was me, and, I don't know why, because it's not like a toy coming to life is any more practical, but it was just, it just didn't really work for me. The whole,
that's fair.
Yeah, the whole, volcanoes, having this, little... love affair or whatever. I don't know. It was a little out there for me. And
yeah.
I just didn't really feel as far as the story goes, it just didn't really, it didn't really seem like the story was that sound. It was there's a lonely volcano and he dies alone basically, and then there's this girl volcano that's been hiding under the water the whole time, and she comes to life, and then he realizes that
I'm still trying to figure out how when he came back to life, he suddenly moved.
Right.
And
yeah.
It was just kind of strange.
I don't know. It just didn't. It just wasn't very compelling, the storyline.
Yeah.
Honestly, it kind of felt like it was just this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then it wasn't like there was a lot of conflict, right?
Right.
The volcano really didn't ever do anything to change the situation. It kind of happened to him. I don't know. That's yeah. Anyways.
No, that's a really
probably
good point.
Thumbs down on the short for me, but thumbs up on the feature.
Okay. Good.
That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
I had a thought. I don't know where it went. My train of thought derailed.
Yeah.
I like that kind of.
Yeah, that was funny. The literal take on the train of thought, literally was a train.
Although I found it so does this mean she can never have thoughts again? That I would like.
Oh, that's true.
The train
that was unresolved.
blew up.
Yeah, and fell into the memory dump.
You'd think that, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
Okay, well, we liked it.
Yeah,
it was a
Inside
good film.
Out. Go see it. Take your family.
Yeah, I'd give it probably an A, maybe an A-.
Yeah.
I thought it was just good.
A little bit of a return to glory for Pixar.
Yeah.
So.
I agree, and it's again, it's refreshing. It's nice to see them kind of go back to their roots. Now their next movie, I don't think looks that great, but who knows?
I don't think it looks.
See.
I don't think it looks bad.
I just can't. We're talking about The Good Dinosaur, of course.
Yeah.
They released a trailer which came out. We saw it before the movie. I just can't get my head around the animation style.
Yeah.
This feels like 2005 to me. This feels like 10 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I am more than willing to accept when it comes out if it's good. I'm hopeful. But the feeling I get, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first time Pixar has released 2 films in 1 year.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
And the kind of pit in my stomach is that their A-team and literally all their passion and love went into Inside Out.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
For
like
sure.
They're just...
It's like the B team on it.
Yeah, or like the D, F, G.
Yeah, that's true.
But who knows? I am. It could be great, could not.
Stay tuned for the review on The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah, when that one comes out.
In like
so
6 months.
Hey, thanks for watching, you guys. I want to thank Andy again for joining me today.
That was awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
That was great.
If you like this episode and you want to see more, click the subscribe button wherever it is, and it's magical. Some of the magic of movie making. Yeah.